Hey, what's up guys? Tyler here with Secureteam. Some brand new reports are just hitting the web that Winston Churchill, the famous former British Prime Minister, not only believed in aliens, but that apparently he had written multiple essays on the subject. According to new reports by both Fox News as well as Huffington Post, a fascinating essay that has laid hidden for decades is revealing what Winston Churchill's views really were on alien life. The never-published essay has been in the archive of the National Churchill Museum in Fulton, Missouri since the 1980s, when it was given to the museum by the wife of Churchill's publisher who had died. Last year, the museum invited Israeli astrophysicist Mario Livio to review the essay, which he discusses in an article published in the science journal Nature. Livio notes the British wartime leader's passion for science and technology in the 1939 essay, as well as Churchill's thoughts on extraterrestrials. Influenced by events unfolding at the time, Churchill voices his concern about human progress and describes the possibility of aliens, saying, quote, "I for one am not so immensely impressed by the success we are making of our civilization here that I am prepared to think that we are the only spot in this immense universe which contains living, thinking creatures, or that we are the highest type of mental and physical development which has ever appeared in the vast compass of space and time." The reports state that the original version of the 11-page essay is held in Churchill Archive Centre in Cambridge, UK, further adding that Churchill revisited the essay in the late 1950s and made some minor changes. He changed the essay's title from, quote, "Are we alone in space?" to "Are we alone in the universe?" Timothy Riley, the director and chief curator of the National Churchill Museum, told Fox News that the essay provides an incredible insight into Churchill's personality. He said, quote, "I think it reveals the incredibly curious mind of Winston Churchill and the breadth and scope of his interests. We know that he had a keen interest in science and valued science and thought that science would lead to progress." It was noted that during the 1920s and 1930s, Churchill wrote popular science essays for newspapers and magazines on topics such as evolution and cells. He also had a long-running friendship with the physicist Frederick Lindman, who later became science advisor to the British government. Now, unfortunately, any further detail of exactly what is found within these essays on aliens, I can't share with you guys today. Because apparently, due to, quote, "copyright issues," the publication of these essays are currently being prevented. And it says that the National Churchill Museum hopes to, quote, "eventually solve this." So, even though we don't have the essays in front of us, and I really wish we did, this is an amazing discovery, because it once again proves that it's not just tinfoil hat-wearing nut jobs like you and me here on YouTube looking into this stuff. No, we have a documented history, which I've spoken about many times on this channel, of former US presidents, politicians, military personnel, astronauts, you name it, all of which have held beliefs that aliens or UFOs do exist. And those people have been vocal about it in the past. And what this goes to show is that even presidents and politicians going as far back as World War II, an amazingly brilliant wartime president such as Winston Churchill, despite everything he had on his plate, the war with Japan and Germany being at the forefront of that, and yet he still took time to write essays specifically relating to his belief in aliens. I mean, what does that tell you guys? And it really does make you wonder what exactly Mr. Churchill knew about this phenomenon. Of course, UFO sightings were extremely prevalent during World War II, during which there was a rash of sightings by both American, British, and German fighter pilots who would encounter these UFOs, which at that time were given the name Foo Fighters by the pilots themselves. And it's said that these objects would appear, making drastic maneuvers, changing speeds, and playing chicken with these fighter pilots as they ran bombing missions over Europe. And of course, Winston Churchill is just the latest addition to presidents who have spoken about the alien or UFO phenomenon. Some of the other presidents you may have heard about who have spoken on this topic are Bill Clinton, who actually made a promise to the public that he would specifically look into the alien phenomenon and the files surrounding Area 51 after he got into the White House. A very famous quote by President Harry S. Truman back in the 1950s, who was quoted as saying, "I can assure you that flying saucers, given that they exist, are not constructed by any power on Earth." A very telling quote by President Truman. Vice President Dick Cheney, during the Bush administration, was questioned by a reporter as to whether he was developing a policy on UFOs, to which Mr. Cheney responded, quote, that if he did attend such meetings on UFOs, that it would most certainly be classified, and therefore he would be unable to discuss it. During a meeting at the White House in March of 1998, Stephen Hawking was overheard saying, quote, "Of course it is possible that UFOs really do contain aliens, as many people believe, and that the government is hushing it up, but I wouldn't like to comment on that." President Jimmy Carter was a big believer in UFOs, and who, while running for president, is quoted as saying, "If I become president, I'll make every piece of information this country has about UFO sightings available to the public and scientists. I am convinced that UFOs exist because I have seen one myself." During his years as a U.S. congressman, President Gerald Ford stated, and I quote, "In the firm belief that the American public deserves a better explanation than that thus far given by the Air Force, I strongly recommend that there be a committee investigation of the UFO phenomena. I think we owe it to the people to establish credibility regarding UFOs and to produce the greatest possible enlightenment of the subject." You've all likely no doubt heard the famous speech given by President Ronald Reagan back in 1988 while he was sharing the stage with former Russian leader Mikhail Gorbachev, when he noted how occasionally he thought about the fact of how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside of this world. Mikhail Gorbachev himself was quoted talking about the subject, saying that the phenomenon of UFOs does exist and that it must be treated seriously. And these quotes just go on and on and on, and I highly suggest you guys look into it. I'll post a link down in the video description that gives a list of all of these quotes from some of the top leaders in not only our country, but from around the world, who have not only expressed their belief in a presence outside of our planet, but who have advocated for the release of said information and the disdain for the secrecy that exists to this day. So now we can add Mr. Churchill to the list, and this really is an amazing breaking news story. So I wanted to share it with you guys, and of course, let me know what you all think. So thank you all for stopping by today. Hope you guys all had a good Valentine's Day, and stay tuned, because I'm working on a range of topics right now that are going to be featured in videos throughout this week. And of course, if you have your own story or UFO sighting that you want to get out there, do not hesitate to email me. So thank you guys for stopping by, and I'll see you back in just a bit.